Don't die in the wilderness when you give up on God's vision. You're alive, but you're not really living. Every morning, you wake up. Every day, you do what needs to be done. Every night, you go to sleep. And tomorrow, it all repeats. Wake up, work, sleep, wake up, work, sleep, wake up, work, sleep. You're busy, but you don't know what you're busy for. You're trying, but you don't know where you're trying to go. You're running, but you don't know which direction you're running. There's an emptiness inside, an emptiness that money can't fill, an emptiness that success can't fill, an emptiness that entertainment can't fill, an emptiness that relationships can't fill. You have everything you thought you needed, but something is still missing. You don't know what it is, but you know it's missing. And sometimes, late at night, when everything is quiet, you ask yourself, what was I born for? Does my life have any meaning? Why do I feel like I'm going in circles? You look back 5 years ago. Where were you? What were you doing? Then you look at today, and you realize you're still in the same place. Not geographically, but in your soul. You've traveled a lot, but you haven't progressed anywhere. You've done a lot, but you haven't built anything. You've lived many years, but you haven't really lived. Like someone walking in the desert, walking and walking and walking, but only going in circles, never arriving anywhere. And you're tired. Tired of walking without arriving. Tired of working without knowing why. Tired of living without purpose. Let me give you a picture. Life is like a coin. You can spend it any way you want. You have complete freedom. But here's the thing. You can only spend it once. Only once. No second chance. No opportunity to start over. No reset button. One coin. One life. One chance. And the question is, what are you spending that coin on? Some people spend it on careers. Some people spend it on money. Some people spend it on fame. Some people spend it on pleasure. But how many people actually know what they're spending it on? How many people actually know if it's worth it? How many people will look back at the end and say, I spent it right? Or will they look back and say, I wasted it. I spent without investing. I lived without knowing why I was living. Friend, have you ever felt that way? Felt like you're wasting something precious? Felt like you were born for something bigger but you don't know what it is? Felt a calling inside but you're afraid to answer? You're not alone. Millions of people feel the same way. Millions are going in circles in the desert of purposelessness. Millions are spending the coin of their lives without knowing what they're spending it on. But today, I want to tell you this. You were not born to go in circles. You were not created to live without purpose. You are not an accident. There is a plan for your life. There is a vision for you. There is a promised land waiting for you. But something has stopped you. Something has made you quit. Something has killed the dream inside you. And I want to show you what that is. You used to have a vision. I know you did. There was a time in your life when you dreamed. You dreamed big dreams. You saw yourself doing something meaningful. You believed your life had purpose. Maybe it was when you were young. Eyes bright with hope. Heart full of passion. The future like a blank page waiting for you to write on it. You saw yourself becoming someone. You saw yourself doing something. You saw yourself living a meaningful life. Maybe God placed a calling in your heart. A calling to serve. A calling to build. A calling to change. A calling to step into something bigger than yourself. You heard it. You felt it. You knew it was real. But then what happened? You started looking at the obstacles. You looked at your circumstances and saw them as too difficult. You looked at the road and saw it as too long. You looked at the challenges and saw them as too big. You looked at the enemies and saw them as too strong. You looked at the walls and saw them as too high. Then you started looking at yourself. You looked at your abilities and saw yourself as too weak. You looked at your education and saw yourself as too lacking. You looked at your experience and saw yourself as too limited. You looked at your age and saw yourself as too old or too young. You looked at your past and saw too many failures. And you concluded, I can't. The grasshopper mentality. The Bible calls this the grasshopper mentality. When you look at obstacles and see yourself as a grasshopper, small, weak, insignificant. I'm not good enough. How many times have you said that? I'm not smart enough. How long have you believed that? I don't have enough money. How many times have you used that excuse? I don't have enough time. I don't have enough health. I don't have enough connections. I don't have enough luck. I'm not enough. Those two words have killed so many visions. Those two words have buried so many dreams. Those 2 words have imprisoned so many people in the wilderness. You looked at the giants and forgot about God. You looked at the walls and forgot about the one who can make them fall. You looked at yourself and forgot about the one who called you. The nevertheless voices. But it wasn't just the voice inside. There were voices outside too. The nevertheless people. You know who they are. They're the ones who, when you shared your dream, said, "Good idea." Nevertheless, they're the ones who, when you talked about your vision, said, "Beautiful dream." Nevertheless, they're the ones who, when you believed God had spoken, said, "God's word is true." Nevertheless, the circumstances are too hard. Nevertheless, the timing isn't right. Nevertheless, the risk is too high. Nevertheless, no one has done this before. Nevertheless, you don't have enough experience. Nevertheless, you don't have enough resources. Nevertheless, they saw the same vision as you. They heard the same promise as you. But they only saw the obstacles. And they wanted you to only see obstacles too. They didn't mean to hurt you. Maybe they thought they were protecting you. Maybe they thought they were being realistic. Maybe they thought they were helping you avoid failure. But the reality is, they were killing your vision. Every nevertheless was a stab wound. Every nevertheless was a stone thrown at your dream. Every nevertheless was a bucket of cold water thrown on your passion. And you listened to too many neverthelesses. From family, from friends, from colleagues, from people around you, and worst of all from yourself. The biggest mistake. You did something you shouldn't have done. You took a vote. You let the nevertheless voices vote on your vision. You let the majority decide your future. You let people who didn't hear God's voice tell you what God could do. And the majority won. The majority said impossible. The majority said too hard. The majority said don't risk it. The majority said play it safe. And you listened to the majority. You shelved your dream. You buried your vision. You forgot the calling. You accepted a mediocre life. What was the result? You're going in circles. Like the Israelites in the wilderness. They could have entered the promised land in 11 days. But they wandered in circles for 40 years. 40 years in the desert. 40 years going nowhere. 40 years wasted. And an entire generation died in the wilderness. They never saw the promised land. They never tasted the fruit of that land. They never lived in the fullness God had prepared. They died in the wilderness. Not because God didn't have a plan. Not because the promised land wasn't real. Not because the vision was fake. They died because they didn't believe. They died because they followed the majority. They died because they saw themselves as grasshoppers. Are you like that? Are you going in circles? Are you living in the wilderness of safety? Are you letting the vision die inside you? How old were you when you stopped dreaming? Where were you when you gave up on the vision? Who did you listen to when you decided it was impossible? The coin of your life. What are you spending it on? On safety? On mediocrity? On going in circles? Or on what God has called you to? But here's the good news. You're still alive. You're still breathing. You still have a chance. The coin isn't fully spent. Life isn't over. The vision can live again. And there is a way out of the wilderness. A way that 2 people took. While everyone else died in the desert. Those 2 entered the promised land. Who were they? What did they do differently? And what can you learn from them? Let me tell you their story. Of the millions who left Egypt, only 2 of that generation entered the promised land. Only 2. Joshua and Caleb. Everyone else died in the wilderness. But these 2 did not. What was special about them? Were they stronger than the others? No. Were they richer than the others? No. Were they smarter than the others? No. They only had one difference. They saw differently. Let me tell you the story. The vision from God. God had promised Israel a land they had never seen. A land flowing with milk and honey. A land fertile, rich, and beautiful. He called it the Promised Land. And he said, I will give you this land. Go up and take possession of it. That was the vision. That was the promise. That was God's plan. But before they entered, God told Moses, send men to spy out the land of Canaan, which I am giving to the people of Israel. Numbers 1:3-2. Notice this. God didn't say, go see if I can give it to you. He said, go see the land that I will give you. The vision was already certain. The promise was already spoken. The question wasn't possible or not. The question was, do you believe or not? The 12 spies. Moses chose 12 men, 1 to represent each tribe. 12 leaders. 12 trusted men. 12 spies to scout the promised land. They went for 40 days. They saw the land. They saw its fruit grapes so large it took 2 men to carry a cluster. They saw its richness. They saw everything was just as God had said, and they returned. All 12 saw the same land. All 12 saw the same fruit. All 12 saw the same obstacles. But they returned with 2 different reports. The majority report. 10 men said, "We went to the land where you sent us. It truly does flow with milk and honey. Here is its fruit. So far, so good." They confirmed God's word was true. The promised land was real. The vision was real. But then they continued. Nevertheless, there it is. The word nevertheless appeared. Nevertheless, the people who live in the land are strong. The cities are fortified and very large. We also saw the descendants of Anak there. Numbers 1:3-8. They continued. We are not able to go up against the people, for they are stronger than we are. Numbers 1:3-1. And then they said the most frightening words. We seemed like grasshoppers in our own eyes, and we looked the same to them. Numbers 1:3-3. Like grasshoppers. Small, weak, insignificant. They looked at the enemy and forgot about God. They looked at the fortresses and forgot about the one who could make them fall. They looked at the giants and forgot about the one who parted the Red Sea. That was the majority report. 10 out of 12. Over 80%. The minority report. But 2 men disagreed. Caleb and Joshua. They had seen the same land. They had seen the same giants. They had seen the same fortresses. But they saw differently. Caleb stood up and said, "Let us go up at once and take possession, for we are well able to overcome it." Numbers 1:3-0. No, nevertheless. No, but. No, maybe. We are well able to overcome it. Why did Caleb believe this? Because he saw differently. The 10 looked at the enemy, they saw themselves as grasshoppers. Caleb looked at God. He saw certain victory. The 10 said, "They are stronger than us." Caleb said God is stronger than them. The 10 said, "We cannot." Caleb said God can. Same land. Same obstacles. 2. Completely different perspectives. The fatal mistake. Israel had to choose. Follow the majority or follow the minority. Listen to the 10 or listen to the 2. And they chose. They followed the majority. They believed it was impossible. They refused to enter the promised land. They took a vote on God's will. And the majority won. The consequence. God declared, "Your bodies will fall in this wilderness. For 40 years you will wander in the desert. Because you did not believe me." Numbers 1:4-9. 33. 40 years. Going in circles. Getting nowhere. An 11-day journey turned into 40 years. Because they didn't believe. And that entire generation died in the wilderness. Everyone 20 years and older. Not one of them saw the promised land. Not one. Except 2. The 2 survivors. God declared, "But my servant Caleb, because he has a different spirit and has followed me fully, I will bring him into the land." And Joshua, the son of Nun, likewise. Numbers 1:4-4. 30. A different spirit. That's the secret. Caleb had a different spirit. He saw differently. He believed differently. He lived differently. While everyone else died in the wilderness, Caleb and Joshua lived. While everyone else went in circles, Caleb and Joshua waited. While everyone else gave up on the vision, Caleb and Joshua held on to faith. And 40 years later, they entered the promised land. Caleb at 85. This is my favorite part. 40 years later, Caleb is now 85 years old. They've entered the promised land under Joshua's leadership. Caleb comes to Joshua and says, "You know what the Lord said to Moses about me and you at Kadesh Barnea? I was 40 years old then. Now I am 85. Joshua 1:4-7. 10. 85 years old. He had waited 45 years. 45 years. Holding the vision in his heart. 45 years. Not giving up. 45 years believing God's promise would come true. And then he said, "I am still as strong today as I was the day Moses sent me. My strength now is as my strength was then." Joshua 1:4-1-1. 85 years old, but still as strong as at 40. Because when you hold on to the vision, God holds on to you. But here's the amazing part. He didn't ask for a retirement home. He didn't ask for a flat, easy piece of land. He didn't ask for comfort in his old age. He pointed to the highest mountain where the giants lived and said, "Give me this mountain." Joshua 1:4-1-2. Give me this mountain, not the valley. The mountain, not the easy place. The hardest place, not a rocking chair. A mountain, 85 years old and still claiming mountains. 85 years old and still fighting. 85 years old and the vision's still alive. The lesson, do you see it? There are two ways to live. The first way, follow the majority. See yourself as a grasshopper. Give up on the vision and die in the wilderness. The second way, look to God. Believe in the promise. Hold on to the vision and enter the promised land. 10 people chose the first way. They died in the wilderness. 2 people chose the second way. They lived to see the promise fulfilled. And you, which will you choose? Will you be one of the 10? Or will you be like Caleb? Will you die in the wilderness of fear? Or will you enter the promised land of faith? The vision God gave you is still there. His promise has never changed. Your promised land is still waiting. The only question is, do you believe? And to answer that question, there's a voice you need to hear. Not the voice of the majority. Not the voice of the nevertheless people. Not the voice of the grasshopper mentality. But the voice of the one who called you. The one who gave you the vision. The one who is waiting for you to step out. Listen, because he is speaking to you. And now, I want you to stop. Stop all the noise. Stop all the thoughts. Stop all the worries. And just listen, not to me, but to the one who created you. The one who placed the vision in your heart. The one who called you to something bigger than yourself. He has something to say to you. Something he's wanted to say for a long time, but you've been too busy listening to other voices. The nevertheless voices. The impossible voices. The voices of the grasshopper mentality. Today, let those voices be silent, and hear only his voice. Because God is speaking to you. My child. I see you. I see you going in circles. I see you lost in the wilderness of fear. I see you living without really living. I see you wake up every morning not knowing what you're living for. I see you work every day not knowing what you're building. I see you tired, empty, lost. I see everything, and I understand. But my child, I also remember. I remember when you used to dream. I remember when your eyes were bright with possibilities. I remember when your heart was full of passion. I remember when you believed your life had meaning. I remember when I placed that vision in your heart. I remember when I showed you the future I had prepared. I remember when I called you to something bigger than yourself. Do you remember? Do you remember that feeling? Do you remember that dream? It's still there. My child, the vision I gave you has never been revoked. The promise I spoke has never been cancelled. The plan I have for you has never changed. But you stopped. You listened to the nevertheless voices. You looked at obstacles instead of looking at me. You saw the giants and forgot about God. You saw the walls and forgot about the one who can make them fall. You saw yourself as a grasshopper. But my child, you are not a grasshopper. You are my child. You were created in my image. You were made with a purpose. You were called to a vision. You are not small in my eyes. You are not weak in my hands. You are not insignificant in my plan. You say, I'm not good enough. But I don't call the qualified. I qualify the called. Moses had a speech problem. But I used him to free an entire nation. David was just a shepherd boy. But I made him defeat a giant. Peter was just a fisherman. But I turned him into the rock that built my church. I don't look for ability. I look for availability. I don't need you to be perfect. I need you to trust. You say, I'm not educated enough. But I used fishermen to write the Bible. I used ordinary people to change the world. I used the weak things to shame the strong things. Your education doesn't determine your destiny. My calling does. You say, I don't have enough money. But I own the gold and silver across all the earth. I am the one who feeds the birds and clothes the flowers. If I care for sparrows, won't I care for you? When I call you, I will provide. When I send you, I will equip. When I give you vision, I will make a way. You say, I'm too old. But Caleb at 85 still claimed the highest mountain. Abraham at 100 still had a child of promise. Moses at 80 just started the greatest mission of his life. Age is not a limit in my hands. When I preserve you, I preserve your strength too. You say I'm too young. But David was just a youth when I anointed him king. Jeremiah was young when I called him as prophet. Timothy was young when I placed him to lead the church. Don't let anyone look down on your youth. I don't look at age. I look at heart. You say, no one has done this before. But the Wright brothers were the first to fly, and they still flew. Noah was the first to build an ark on dry land, and the flood still came. Abraham was the first to leave his homeland following my call, and he became the father of many nations. Someone has to be first. Why not you? You say, the circumstances are too hard. But I parted the Red Sea. I made the walls of Jericho fall. I shut the lions' mouths for Daniel. I turned water into wine. I raised the dead to life. Are your circumstances harder than the Red Sea? Are your walls higher than Jericho? Are your enemies stronger than death? Nothing is too hard for me. Nothing. My child. I am the God who plans. I had a plan for you before you were born. I knew you before you were formed in your mother's womb. I called you before you knew I existed. The vision I gave is not random. The dream I placed is not coincidence. The calling I gave is not meaningless. It's all part of a plan. A plan I designed from eternity past. A plan I will complete to the very end. And you are part of that plan. I have prepared a promised land for you. I have arranged everything for you. I have gone ahead to prepare the way. The obstacles you see, I've known about them all along. And I already have a way through. The enemies you fear, I've already defeated them. You just need to walk in the victory I've already won. The walls you think are impassable, I only need one trumpet blast. And they will crumble. My child. Don't look at the obstacles. Look at me. Don't look at the circumstances. Look at the one who controls circumstances. Don't look at the giants. Look at the God who is bigger than giants. Don't look at yourself. Look at the one who called you. Because the issue isn't whether you can or not. The issue is that I can. The issue isn't whether you're strong enough. The issue is that I'm strong enough. The issue isn't whether you have enough resources. The issue is that I have unlimited. When I am with you. What do you lack? When I go before you. What do you fear? When I fight for you. What do you worry about? My child. I never give you a vision without giving you the strength to complete it. I never call you somewhere without going there first. I never promise something without keeping my word. My word will not return empty. What I purpose will be accomplished. The plan I establish will be completed. The only question is, will you step out? You can choose like the 10 spies. Follow the majority. Believe it's impossible. Go in circles in the wilderness. And die without ever seeing the promised land. Or you can choose like Caleb. Look at me instead of the obstacles. Believe that I will do what I promised. Step out, even without knowing the whole path. And enter the promised land. That's your choice. I won't force you. I won't compel you. I give you freedom to choose. But I want you to know this. Your life is like a coin. You can spend it any way you want. But you can only spend it once. Only once. No second chance. No opportunity to start over. What will you spend that coin on? On fear. On safety. On going in circles. On following the majority. On dying in the wilderness. Or on the vision I gave you. On the promised land I prepared. On the purposeful life I called you to. My child. I want you to invest that coin. Not just spend it. Invest it in something worthwhile. Invest it in something meaningful. Invest it in my plan. Don't waste it in the wilderness of fear. Don't lose it in the desert of mediocrity. Don't let it be eaten away by the nevertheless voices. You were born for something bigger. You were made for something more meaningful. You were called to something higher. Don't let that die in you. And my child, I want you to know one thing. I am watching you. Father is watching. Every day you live. I watch. Every step you take. I watch. Every decision you make. I watch. Not to judge you, but because I love you. Because I care about you. Because I want to see you live fully. I want to see you enter the promised land. I want to see you fulfill the vision. I want to see you live your purpose. I want to see you play with all you've got. Not like a grasshopper, but like a warrior. Not like someone afraid, but like someone I have called. Not like someone going in circles, but like someone headed for the promised land. When you know Father is watching, you will live differently. When you know Father is watching, you won't settle for mediocrity. When you know Father is watching, you won't give up on the vision. When you know Father is watching, you will play with all you've got. And I am watching. I always watch. I have never taken my eyes off you, my child. Stand up. Stand up from the grasshopper mentality. Stand up from fear. Stand up from the nevertheless voices. Stand up from the wilderness. And walk. Walk toward the promised land. Walk toward the vision. Walk toward the life I have prepared for you. I will go with you. I will go before you. I will go beside you. I will never leave you. Whether you're 25 or 85, whether you've failed many times, whether you've been going in circles for years, it's still not too late. Today is the day. The promised land is still waiting. Your mountain is still there. Just as 5-year-old Caleb said, "Give me this mountain." You can say that too, no matter your age, no matter what you've been through, no matter what the nevertheless voices said. You can stand up today and say, "Give me this mountain. Give me this vision. Give me my promised land." And I will answer, "Done." Because you believed. My child, don't die in the wilderness. Don't let the coin of your life be wasted. Don't let the vision I gave you be buried. Live. Believe. Walk, because I am watching. Father is watching, and I want to see you soar. Did you hear that? That call? The call from the one who created you, who placed the vision in your heart, who is waiting for you to stand up. He's not angry that you've been going in circles. He hasn't given up because you followed the majority. He hasn't revoked the vision because you were afraid. He's still waiting. Waiting for you to believe again. Waiting for you to dream again. Waiting for you to step out. I want to tell you a story. The story of the boy and the blind father. There was a boy on a high school football team. He was the laziest player on the team. Didn't practice. Didn't try. Just showed up. Just there for the experience. The coach never put him in the game. Teammates never expected anything from him. Everyone knew he was just extra. Then came the championship game, the most important game of the year. Everyone knew the lazy kid would never get playing time. But then, something no one expected happened. In the first quarter, the first string player got injured, had to leave the field. Then the second string player got injured, had to leave the field. Then the third string player got injured, had to leave the field. The coach looked around. Only one person left. The lazy kid. He had no choice. He put the kid in the game. The whole team was worried. The opponents laughed. The crowd sighed. But then something miraculous happened. The boy stepped onto the field, and he played like a completely different person. He ran like he'd never run before. He defeated every opponent. He broke through every defense. He scored touchdown after touchdown. The coach couldn't believe it. The teammates couldn't believe it. The crowd couldn't believe it. Was this the same lazy kid? Was this the one who never tried? What happened to him? The game ended. His team won. Because of him. The coach ran over. He grabbed the boy's shoulders and asked, "Son, I have to apologize. I completely underestimated you. I don't understand. You've never played like that. I've never seen anyone play like that. What happened? How did you do that?" The boy looked at the coach. His eyes were red. And he said, "Coach, do you know my father?" "Yes. I know him." "Do you know my father was blind?" "Yes. I know. My father never saw me play. Not once. He came to every game. He sat in the stands. But he never saw me play. Coach, my father died yesterday. And today is the first day my father gets to see me play. When you know Father is watching, you live differently." That boy was lazy for so many years. Because he didn't think anyone was watching. Because he didn't think it mattered. Because he had no reason to try. But when he knew Father was watching, when he knew Father's eyes were on him, when he knew Father was waiting, he played with all he had. Not for the coach. Not for the teammates. Not for the crowd. But for Father. Father is watching. Friend, I want to tell you this. Father is watching. Your heavenly Father is watching you. Every day you live. Every step you take. Every decision you make. He is watching. He sees when you're afraid. He sees when you doubt. He sees when you go in circles. He sees when you listen to the nevertheless voices. And he's still waiting. Waiting for you to realize he's watching. Waiting for you to live like he's watching. Waiting for you to play with all you've got because he's watching. When you know Father is watching, you won't settle for mediocrity. When you know Father is watching, you won't give up on the vision. When you know Father is watching, you won't go in circles. When you know Father is watching, you won't die in the wilderness. You will stand up. You will step out. You will play with all you've got. Because Father is watching. The coin of life. Remember this. Life is like a coin. You can spend it any way you want. But you can only spend it once. How much have you already spent? How much do you have left? What will you spend the rest on? Don't just spend it. Invest it. Invest in something meaningful. Invest in something worthwhile. Invest in the vision God gave you. Invest in the purpose He placed in your heart. Don't waste it on fear. Don't lose it on mediocrity. Don't let it be eroded in the wilderness. You only have one life. Make it count. The promised land is still waiting. The vision God gave you is still there. His promise has never changed. His plan has never been canceled. The promised land is still waiting. Your mountain is still there. The future He prepared is still ready. No matter how long you've been going in circles, no matter how many years you've wasted, no matter how many nevertheless voices you've heard, it's still not too late. Caleb at 85 still claimed his mountain. Moses at 80 just started his mission. Abraham at 100 finally had his child of promise. If they could, you can. It doesn't matter how old you are. It doesn't matter how many times you've failed. It doesn't matter what the nevertheless voices said. What matters is, do you believe? What matters is, will you step out? What matters is, are you ready? Today is the day. Not tomorrow. Not next week. Not next year. Not when conditions are right. Today. Today. Decide. Decide not to listen to the nevertheless voices anymore. Decide not to see yourself as a grasshopper anymore. Decide not to go in circles anymore. Decide not to die in the wilderness. Today. Stand up. Stand up from fear. Stand up from mediocrity. Stand up from false safety. Today. Step out. Step toward the vision. Step toward the promised land. Step toward a life of purpose. Today. Say like Caleb, give me this mountain. A prayer. If you want to stand up today, pray with me. No fancy words needed. Just an honest heart. Dear Lord, I admit I've been going in circles. I've listened to the nevertheless voices. I've seen myself as a grasshopper. I've given up on the vision you gave me. But today, I want to stand up. I want to believe again. I want to dream again. I want to step out. Help me look at you, instead of looking at obstacles. Help me believe in the promise instead of believing in fear. Help me step out even without knowing the whole path. I don't want to die in the wilderness. I don't want to waste the coin of my life. I want to enter the promised land you have prepared. Today, I say like Caleb, give me this mountain. Give me this vision. Give me a life of purpose. I know Father is watching, and I want to live worthy. I want to play with all I've got. I want to make Father proud. Please go with me. Please go before me. Please never leave me. I believe you can. I believe you will. I believe. Your promise. Amen. He's smiling. If you just prayed that prayer, He's smiling. Not because you're perfect, but because you believed. Not because you have enough ability, but because you were willing. Not because you know the whole path, but because you decided to step out. And He will go with you. Every step. Until you enter the promised land. Remember, life is like a coin. You can only spend it once. Invest it. Don't just spend it. Invest it in something meaningful. You are not a grasshopper. You are a child of God. You were made for a purpose. You were called to a vision. Don't listen to the nevertheless voices. Don't look at obstacles. Don't go in circles. Don't die in the wilderness. Look to God. Believe in the promise. Step toward the promised land. And remember, Father is watching. When you know Father is watching, you live differently. When you know Father is watching, you won't give up. When you know Father is watching, you play with all you've got. Father is watching. Play with all you've got. Live with all you've got. Enter the promised land. Whether you're 25 or 85, whether you're just starting or have been going in circles for years, today is the day. The promised land is waiting. Your mountain is there. Give me this mountain. Amen.